So, well, okay. Let's see. Let's start. Let's start with something. Let's ease our way into this rather than going straight in with the origin story. Um, Give us a little sort of intro on who you are right now.
Awesome. I got this written down. Kyle, give me the notepad. Hang on, I got. All right. It's good. Hi guys, I'm Hair Guy. For anybody who has not stopped by my channel or have seen me before, I am what you call a variety streamer. If you guys got to put me in a box smaller than this one, that's what I do. I play video games of all variety and all caliber. We do just chatting stuff. If you guys want to see my schedule, you're more than welcome to stop by my channel. Here's my shameless self-promotion time.
We'll do that again at the end. It's okay.
But yeah, I mean, if by all accounts, I'm a variety streamer. Like I play whatever I want. Like the new, I guess I play a lot of single player story games, stuff like that. But when you come by my channel, if you stay long enough, like, yeah, I play video games, we chit chat, we play marbles on stream. We do a bunch of just chatting and a bunch of other stuff. But, I hate labels because I feel like it boxes me in too hard, like all jokes aside, but I'm not exactly of a comfort streamer, I guess, because I don't know. There's so many words, like especially when you surf social media, like there's so many different labels. We talk about mental health a lot in my channel. I am somebody who suffers from bipolar, ADHD, PTSD, an anxiety disorder. And when people come in, I have a little button that says like, "Hey, I'm new." Like for like one channel point, they can redeem it, and like I give them pretty much the same spiel about who I am, what I'm about. And I tell those people that in the first 30 seconds of them being in there and pushing that button, if they're genuine, my mods like to push that button regularly. And like, I'm new. And I just have a clip that I have at this point from like my channel trailer. So I just play that for them. I'm tired of that.
Yeah. Is that what mods are for? They're supposed to help us, but they harass us.
Yeah. They set the precedent for like the level of harassment allowed, like in your chat for sure. So like in the first minute and a half, of somebody being in my channel, if you've never been in there, you're going to find that stuff out about me. And I think the reason that I have taken that approach and the reason that I do that is because, especially early on when I was diagnosed and I went to some of my friends that I had known for a long time, childhood friends, I got such a wide variety of reactions from, genuine support to, "Oh, hey, that really sucks, but I don't want to hear about it," to, "Oh, dude, like, I always knew there was something weird wrong with you. Like, I don't really want to deal with this." Like, and then it's like walked away. So I am much more comfortable now having no problem addressing and acknowledging those things, because I would rather have somebody immediately make the decision that I'm not for them. They don't want to hear about those things. They're not interested in mental health. They don't want to hear about those topics, because they're going to come up regularly. Because the other half of what I tell people is it doesn't matter if there is 1, 10, 100, however many one day that I hope to have. It doesn't matter if the camera's on or off. Those mental health issues, those things that I deal with, those feelings, everything is still there. Camera on or off, people there or not. Those mental health things are still there. So why BS people and pretend that like everything's great on camera? But it's not. I mean, I have even canceled the stream a couple of times this week. I wasn't feeling good. I'm somebody who like is working on being more consistent in their life, especially since I want to do this as a career and really want something out of this. But it's like, I mean, I feel like you're one of the first people to, agree with me that mental health issues makes consistency almost in any aspect of your life so difficult. And it can make or break like a career in any sense of the word. So I just, even now dealing with that, I just rather would be upfront and honest and open with people, because they're either going to be accepting of it or they're going to say, "Hey, this isn't for me." And that's fine. I'm not everybody's cup of tea, but the people who like me by the gallon. So that's fine. Like, so I've accepted that. It's taken me a lot longer than I'd like to admit, but I've gotten there.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome. And I think, it's, one of the things that I say about opening up and being upfront about your mental health is it helps you find out quicker who those people are going to be. I'd rather find out, that a person's going to reject me for my mental health on day one rather than on day 1,000, because by the time I get to day 1,000, I'm an all in. Well, I'm bipolar as well, so I'm all in when I am, and I'm not when I'm not. I'm all sometimes
100%.
I'm all out. And And yeah, it's like, I think I encourage people all the time. It's like, look, people are fearful of people are often fearful of that rejection, or of people not accepting them for that. And the thing is, I'd rather find out. And I
Yeah.
know that, and it's because ultimately, if you spend all your time thinking, oh, what if they find out? It doesn't matter if they actually, if they're gonna accept you, then you're not
They
getting
were
the
going to do it
benefit.
on day one.
Yeah, but you're not getting the benefit of that acceptance by not knowing it's there. But if they were going to reject you, you're also going to think that that's there all the time anyway. You think
Yep.
that the possibility, we don't worry about, no one ever turns around and goes, oh, what if I open up to my friends and they accept me? It's like,
God,
oh my
no.
God, how will I deal with that?
No,
So
I've never.
that thought going through your head is not, or you're you're never sitting there fantasizing about the day where you open up and everyone turns around and calls you a brave soul and like
Nah.
hosts you up into like the little chair position and all the rest of it.
Yep.
So, so at what age did you get that diagnosis then? When you said when you were open up to friends?
So I was clinically diagnosed as being depressed at 13 or 14. I am old enough to where that makes like Zoloft and Prozac and those things like in the early 2000s kind of like the go-to. Like you go to the doctor and you're like, hey, I don't feel good. Like I'm sad. They're like, oh, here's some Prozac. I hope it feels you better. Like I know like it's cliche. I love that Offspring song, Prozac will make it better. Like that was the thing, at least for my generation. Like they just were like, hey, here's some antidepressants, I'll see you in a month.
Yeah.
To be honest, that still happens and I hate it. So that was for depression. Unfortunately, when it comes to the bipolar and the ADHD and PTSD and the anxiety stuff, that wasn't until I knew that I always had something, but the diagnosis didn't come until my early 20s, where I actually went, and said, hey, like I need to get tested. Like there's something wrong. Like my entire life I was called, stupid and lazy and just, all those typical things that I feel that a lot of people, especially who get diagnosed late in life with ADHD, heard the same thing. They were just like, my entire childhood and adolescence, lazy, stupid, like unmotivated. No, I wasn't. No, I'm not. Like one of the most motivated and driven people that I know. Like I just, had something wrong. So those didn't come until my early 20s. But that's when I really started to go, okay, there's something wrong. My option is either to, ignore it, pretend that it's not there, hope it goes away, which all those things are, total ignorance, by the way, for anybody who's listening, because they don't. Or you got to do something about it. And it was shortly after that I found out that my fiance at the time was pregnant. And I said, okay, that was kind of like the tipping point. Like, I'm going to be a dad soon. Like, I got to get my shit together. If I'm going to mold another human being, I better be at least a decent person along the way.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Early 20s.
Early 20s. Okay. So, right, let's go further back then. Obviously you got the first diagnosis of depression at 13. What was sort of going on in that point in your life?
At that point, wow. You want me to do this to your
well, I absolutely do. Okay. I want you to do this to me as well, and as much as you're comfortable to.
No, that's fine. So at the age of 13, my mom had remarried at that point. So I had a stepfather who was abusive, in every sense of the word, across the board, in every definition of the word. My mom got into a car accident when I was 11, when she was pregnant with the oldest of my two younger sisters. So I was 11 when that happened. So my mom fell victim to the opioid epidemic of the early 2000s. So at that point in my life at 13, my sister was a couple of years old. My stepfather was abusive. He was a truck driver, long distance. So he would be gone for 28 days at a time, be home for a week and then leave again. And I can always remember whenever that time frame of him starting like to be coming back to the house, I would always feel this weird just tightening in my chest. I couldn't breathe. I wanted to go to my room. Now I know that those are panic attacks, and that's what I was experiencing at 13. So I was raising my sister. My mom was completely addicted and immobilized by opioids. My stepfather was abusing me in every definition, and then on top of that, I was also being sexually abused by I guess that's at the time it was a friend of the family. I guess is like the way to word it. Like at the time, he was a friend of my stepdad's at the time, and he was living with us. An older male. He was like 20 something years older than I was at the time. But I was being sexually abused by him at that. So at 13, that's what I was doing.
I'm so sorry, man.
I always feel so weird when people say that. Like, and I don't mean to put you on the spot, like, because I know you've probably had it. Like, I don't know how to respond to that, because, like, I know that people don't want to say. I know people don't want to sit there in silence, but people always say they're sorry, but you don't have anything to be sorry for. Like, you didn't do anything. Like, I understand. Like, it's a human reaction, but I feel like that we should. There's got to be a way to normalize stopping that, because as somebody who gets that done to them, or even has done it, like, you don't have anything to be sorry for. I understand that you're sorry for the pain that I've been through, or the stuff that I've been through, but you shouldn't feel guilty just for hearing my story, because I feel like that's putting unfair, like, pressure on you as a person. That's not fair to you.
It's almost like a different kind of sorry that we need a different word for, though, because it's
empathy, right?
There's empathy. Well, to a degree. I mean, it's hard with empathy when there's things that you haven't personally been to. I mean, I've been physically abused, but never sexually abused. So, and I know what it's like to be physically abused by a family member and by almost every male person in my life up until a certain point. But I don't know what it's like to go through that. But what I don't know. If I wish we actually had a different word for it. I wish because it is. I'm sorry that you went through that. I'm not sorry in a guilty, I feel responsible way. I'm sympathetic, I guess, about the fact that you went through that, and I don't know. There's a lot of emotions that I'm angry that you went through that. To be honest, I'm angry that this happens in the world. I'm angry that there are people out there that are suffering that same fate right now, and this last year as well, there'll be people out there that when your stepfather was away, I know, like, there's obviously that whole. You probably never wanted him to come back, right? But there was that relief from it. There was
100%.
There was that
the minute
kind
he
of
walked out the door,
escape, and but then obviously to have that with the family friend, the family enemy. Yeah. So to have that happening at the same time, it's like, where was the escape from that? And
right.
So what could, like, obviously, what condition was your mum in at that time?
For the record, my mom is much better now. She is in the best physical and mental and overall health of her entire life, and I am extremely happy to say that about her, for sure. At the time, for anybody who's old enough to know about the opioid epidemic, doctors pretty much threw, like, hardcore prescription painkillers at you if you went in with any kind of problem. She obviously had major back issues, and at the time, it wasn't even a diagnosis, but fibromyalgia. Like, she was one of the first people to be diagnosed with it before it was an actual diagnosis. So they would throw a bottle of 90 oxys at her a month, and there was pretty much like a routine in my life when I was a teenager growing up, and it's just like a sound and like one of those things that stays with you. She used to always try to eat cereal because the pills would suppress her appetite. And then finally, throughout the day, she would, you know, fall asleep. And it would be really late at night. She'd be tired and hadn't eaten all day, and she'd be really hungry, and she'd get a bowl of cereal, and it would be the same noise. I would hear it regularly. She would be trying to eat a bowl of cereal, and just the nods. I mean, for anybody who has dealt with anybody who has had an opioid addiction or somebody with addiction in their life, like, you know what the nods are. Like, they start falling asleep and passing out, and they kind of like just they just I still can remember it, like the sound, and it would just be the same sound of like that ceramic bowl hitting the floor every night, and I would have to go out and I would clean up the mess and I would clean her up, and um it was so it was such a vicious circle, because I would get her, I would help her get cleaned up and get everything put away and get ready and head back to bed myself. I'm 13, and I would hear her in the kitchen pouring another bowl of cereal. I said, "What are you doing?" And she, "Well, I'm hungry." Well, no shit. You spilled the last one on the floor. Like, you're not going to make it to that one either. And that was pretty much a nightly routine for me. That was it. Like, she tried to do the best she could during the day sometimes, but that was a regular thing for me at night.
So with your mum being like that and your stepfather being like he was and also away, like, what did that mean for like you and your little sisters at that point? Like, were you the primary caregiver at this point? Like, what sort of role did you have to become at that time?
Yeah, 100%. My sisters are only 4 years apart, so there is like 11 and 15 years in age difference between them. So I essentially started to take care of my my first sister, like, trying to, at that point, she was old enough where she was eating regular food for the most part. So I was cooking dinner and helping do that. Laundry, taking care of her. She wasn't in school yet or anything. But then I was trying to take care of the house. We had animals and stuff at the time. I'm in middle school at the time. I think this is going, 13. Yeah, I'm in like 7th or 8th grade maybe. So I'm still getting up and trying to catch the bus every morning, and I became the primary caretaker for, I think, both myself, my mom, and my sister, because my mom definitely wasn't able to take care of herself. She wasn't able to take care of my sister the way that she genuinely wanted to, and somebody still had to take care of the house. I mean, we had dogs and some other small animals, but somebody had to do something, and I didn't really think I had a choice, especially when it came to my family and stuff. I mean, and the dogs were no different, so I didn't have a choice at all, really. Somebody had to take care of stuff.
So what did it's like, to get through that period of your life, like what did you do to cope through that time?
I didn't really have like an escape, because I had been in and out of therapy my whole life. Since I was like 5 or 6, I wasn't drinking or doing any drugs at that age. That definitely like happened later in life for sure, but not at that age. I didn't have anything. I didn't self-harm at that age either. I don't know. I really don't. Video games. I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm not gonna sit here and be cliche or bullshit you or anything. Music and video games. Like, that was it. Like, that. Those were the things for me. I didn't have anything else. Like, that was it. I don't know.
So how did that situation get resolved?
I'm sorry. I wasn't laughing at you. I'm laughing when I think back of how simple I wish. My mom stayed married to my stepfather until I was 22, 23. They had They had decided that they were moving. They didn't like where they lived anymore. They wanted to pack up and move halfway across the country. This got dropped on me one morning, and the response was like, "Hey, we're moving. I don't like it here anymore. You can stay or go, your choice, but we're leaving." Like, in I think like 4 months is what it was. I think it was like May or June. They were leaving before winter, essentially.
So did that with your stepfather continue until then?
It didn't finally stop until we had moved, and we had moved into a new house halfway across the country. My fiance had moved with us. Ooh, that's pretty.
Did I just turn green on your screen?
You did, yeah.
It's not. I've not turned green on my screen, but apparently people report this to me sometimes that I turn green on their screen, and there you go. It should fix itself.
Okay, cool.
But you have a very nice green glow for a
Thank you. Thank you. This is awesome. So it didn't get resolved until we were living in a new house, new state, halfway across the country, and my fiance was living with us. I woke up one morning to yelling and fighting, which honestly was nothing new for me. To make it real short, my stepfather was attempting to stab my mom with a kitchen knife. I intervened. He attacked me. I guess decided like overall stabbing me wasn't worth it and didn't. And my fiance at the time called the police. He got arrested. And and then the next day, my mom bailed him out of jail. And she wanted to sit down and have like some family meeting and shit. I'm sorry. Family meeting. And I sat there and I don't know. Nobody said anything. I don't know if I really blocked it out. I've never really said, it doesn't matter. And I said, like, I'm leaving. Like, I can't do this. Like, I can't, like, I don't feel safe here anymore. Like, I don't have any choice. Like, it's not fair to me or my fiance. Like, that wasn't fair to her either. Like, I can't, I wanted to take my sisters and I obviously couldn't. That's not how it works, even though the situation was clearly unsafe. So we packed up and we left. And I went back to where we originally had moved from, back east. And then it took my mom at least another 4 or 5 years of being in therapy and working on her mental health. And my sister's getting older and saying, hey, like, our dad's still an asshole, like, for her to finally divorce him.
Has there ever been any kind of, have you ever pursued any justice against him?
I wouldn't know how. No, is the quick answer once.
Okay. So was that, you said earlier as well that it was a sort of your early 20s that the rest of the diagnoses were given. Where does that fit in with all of this?
1 second. Just making sure everything is okay with the family. I'm sorry. Can you repeat the question? I apologize.
Yeah,
Dad duties never end.
Yeah, I know. One of mine decided he was going to stay at a friend's like 20 minutes.
You didn't offer to take mine with? Come on now.
It's a bit of a commute.
I mean, we'll make it work.
They were just 3,500 miles or something. No, but basically what I was asking was where did this happen in regards to, because you said obviously it was early 20s that you received the rest of your diagnoses. Mm-hmm. And where's that in relation to this part?
I didn't get diagnosed until after I had moved back to New England, and I was living. My fiance and her and I were living on our own. Before she'd gotten pregnant or anything, so it was just her and I, and I had been very open and upfront about my mental health, and obviously she had seen a lot of things that I had been through. She's been through some traumatic stuff herself. So she was no stranger to any of that. And she said, like, I think that, you should continue working on your mental health, counseling, whatever, and, maybe get diagnosed. You're a little older. Let's figure it out. And so I did. And so I went and I was seeing, psychiatrist, therapist, all that good stuff. And I said, I've never really had anybody put me through the ringer and see if there's anything going on up there. Let's do that. And, in the same like span of all the testing, she came back, and that's when she came back with 90% of the stuff. The anxiety and PTSD had kind of been diagnosed through my primary and through the hospital and stuff. But, the other stuff, the ADHD and the bipolar kind of came back at once. And I just went, oh, I had no idea. I had no idea.
Yeah. So you obviously mentioned earlier about how different friends reacted to your diagnosis. What was it like for you? What did it change?
The ADHD thing was a huge relief because as a kid, I had dabbled and done some things that, I probably shouldn't had. And when you do things recreationally, kids don't try this at home. But when you do things recreationally and you're expecting one outcome and you get another. So when you try to use Adderall recreationally for fun and you go home and you do like a week's worth of homework and clean your house and, a million other things, you go, that's weird. That's not what everybody else is doing. And so when I got the diagnosis of being ADHD, it just felt like such a relief because I had felt like that I wasn't lazy. I wasn't stupid. I wasn't all these things that I had been ridiculed for, that I had just felt like, something wasn't clicking properly. And the minute that I got on my prescription for that, I felt like that my life had changed. Like, I know that there are so many cliche movies, about, take a pill and unlock the rest of your brain. But like, I really felt like that I had been held back for so much of my life because that was undiagnosed. It wasn't treated. And for anybody who is diagnosed with ADD or ADHD, ask them how they feel if they miss a single dose, like how they feel after one day. Like, I know for me, I don't feel like the same person. I know that I speak for nobody else. I only speak for myself. This is what I tell my fiance, I feel stupid when I miss my medication. I don't feel like me. I feel like that I am functioning, at 50%, I'm missing a couple of RAM sticks. Just like everything is not booting the way it's supposed to. Like, and I hate that. Like, it is a terrible feeling. So that was a huge relief. The bipolar one was, I don't want to say shocking, but I guess it's always, I guess, kind of scary to put a name to something or to have a feeling or to feel a certain way for so long. Yeah. And, people say, oh, it's depression or, it's this or that or, your environment. And then to be taken out of that environment and then have somebody say, hey, the way that you react to things or the way that things, bother you or, that's not normal. And I think one of the tipping points was my fiance and I had gotten into a fight one time. We were arguing about something. And for me, growing up as a kid, as a human being, yelling was normal. Like that, like when somebody was having a fight, like yelling, that was like, that's how I knew you were fighting. You're yelling. Yeah. We had a disagreement and I started yelling and she was like, why are you yelling? And I'm like, what are you talking about? We're fighting. Like, what this is, I mean, you play baseball, you bring a bat and glove. Like, what are you talking about? You didn't prepare properly, not me. Like, and she was just like, no, this isn't normal. This isn't like, people don't just yell and scream. And that was like kind of like the tipping point where I went, oh, well, even outside of that environment, like, maybe that's what I was taught, but there's something else going on. And that's when, the whole idea of being, I'm bipolar 2 for the record, but that it kind of made a lot of sense to the mood swings and the ups and downs and just the way that I responded or reacted to certain things or in certain situations. It just made so much more sense than before, when it just seemed like that I was just unable to have any grip on my emotions.
Yeah, I mean, I got my diagnosis at 14, and the way it was given, it was called manic depression back then.
Yep.
Well, it was still actually already called bipolar disorder, but the doctor that gave me my diagnosis said manic depression, and that to my 14-year-old brain, that wasn't explained to me very well, meant that you're either manic or you're depressed, and you're nothing in between, which became the truth for like 10 years. And it was only kind of in my mid-20s when I did some CBT and stuff, and it was like, yeah, there is a bit in the middle. I'm like, no, there's not. I'm bipolar, and they were like, no, there is a bit in the middle as well. And so it was funny how weirdly learning that made me acknowledge that the middle was there, like, because it's the middle was always there before, but my brain had tricked itself into thinking that I was either here or there, which is the stereotypical definition of a person with bipolar. That's what people think about us. That's where we are all the time. We're bipolar. We can't. So's the planet that we're on. It's a bipolar planet. It has two poles. It also has all of the continents in the middle. So okay, so I can't think of any tactful ways to get the conversation in this direction. But obviously, I'm going to go just blunt. When we spoke off earlier in the week, you said that obviously the expression you said was people believed your trauma until a point. Like, what else is it that what else is in the story that you've not told us so far?
All right, so it all started on a dark and stormy. No, I'm kidding. No. Okay, no. I'll give you the origin story. I'd like to think that it totally stems from the fact that my mom told me that when I was born, the doctor didn't spank me. I already came out crying. So, I mean, maybe that plays a huge. That defines everything right there. No. All right. I will tell you the same thing I have told so many therapists in my life. My mom and father got divorced when I was 3 years old. He was an alcoholic. He was a drug addict. He was abusive to my mom, and she left for our safety. Like, there's no doubt in my mind about that. He didn't really want anything to do with me. Like, after they got divorced, I was forced through the court systems to go and visit and stay there. And I can remember many nights being at my father's house, calling my mom on the phone regularly as a little kid, crying and begging for her to come and get me. And my father wouldn't let her. He would say, no, it's my weekend. Like, he's going to get used to it. He's got to stay here, this and that. And my mom would read me books and talk to me on the phone and stuff until I would fall asleep. And then I would wake up in the morning and call her as soon as I woke up, and she'd have to come and get me. So he never, even when he had the chance, he didn't care. So they got divorced. I started to be sexually abused by my cousin, who, in male, 9 years older than I am. He lived with my grandparents, my mom's parents. That started when I was 5 or 6. And that was a pretty consistent thing. I don't have like numbers for you guys, but my grandparents didn't live far away from my mom and I, and we would go over for dinner at least twice a week. So that happened until I was 9 when we moved away. So that was an ongoing thing throughout that entire time frame. On top of that, my father didn't want anything to do with me, so he was basically out of the picture at that point. He had gotten remarried. I think that he might have had like another kid. I'm not really sure. Unfortunately, my mom was super neglectful during that time. So my cousin had been convicted of sexually molesting a neighbor of mine while babysitting. arrested, like the works. And my so he arrested, prosecuted, all the above. He's still living at my grandparents, and for whatever reason, my mom, my grandparents, nobody thought to keep me away from him, or like, like, I don't know, like, so that's kind of a hard thing to really acknowledge, to to feel, to think that you're supposed to be safe and being protected, and then just literally feel like that, you're just like offered up to the wolves at some point. I don't know. It's rough. So that started when I was 5. That continued until I was like 9, I think, when we moved away. But we moved away because my mom met my stepfather. Shortly before we moved away, my mom's sister moved in with us because she was broke, homeless, and didn't have any place to go. Being my mom's sister, of course, she let her stay there. She has 2 daughters, 2 female cousins of mine, which ironically enough are the sisters of the cousin who was already sexually abusing me. They also sexually abused me, each of them, or both of them, I should say. That it wasn't a frequent thing. I don't know. I remember it happening, but it wasn't a consistent thing. I just remember they were there for a couple of weeks, and it was just like a really, I don't know. It was weird because I was such a little kid. I was already being sexually abused in one manner by a male, so to then be sexually abused by 2 different females, my brain wasn't processed enough to really understand any of what the hell was happening to me anyways. But I just knew it was another level of confusion. Anytime my mom asked me why I never said anything when I was growing up, I remember, well, now it makes a lot more sense, but my cousin had threatened to murder my mom and grandparents. Like, I don't have a big family. So it was me and my mom. It was my grandparents and then him. So for, him to tell me that he's going to like murder everybody in their sleep, like, I'm a little kid. Like, so even though I was being questioned by my mom, the police, like, all these terrible things that happened to my neighbor, I couldn't say anything. I didn't dare. I couldn't, for obvious reasons, being a little kid.
Yeah.
So we moved when I was 9. My mom got remarried, I think, within a year and a half of that. We moved to New England with my stepfather, my mom and I. My stepfather was extremely abusive across the board. And just to be clear, just so I don't we're clear about this, when because I actually learned this more recently than not. He was sexually abusive in the fact that I used to be a really fat kid. I'm not gonna lie to you. Like, I hated it. I was always a fat kid. I'm not exactly in the greatest shape of my life now, but, well, that's a lie. I'm in the greatest shape of my life now, but I'm not exactly in amazing shape. But I always used to be a fat kid, and like, he always used to like make fun of me for like being large chested, and he used to always walk by and give me nipple twisters. That was his thing. Like, he'd like walk by and just like pinch my nipples. And like, looking back on that now, that is 100% like sexual abuse. That is unwanted physical contact. And I like just remember like thinking, oh, well, you better keep your hands and guard up. Like that's how distorted and perverse like the thought process was, oh, I better keep my hands up. Like, but he was abusive in every way. He was degrading. He would call me names. He was physically abusive, mentally abusive, like I said, sexually. If it wasn't something that he was about or what he was into, it was, a bunch of derogatory terms and homophobic remarks, and just, if it wasn't his thing, like, it was just, not cool, there was no support. It didn't matter. Like, that was for so and so, and just there was nothing. So that was just a regular thing, whether it was like any activity that I was interested in or a hobby, friends. It didn't really matter he liked NASCAR and he was a truck driver and he liked cars. I don't know how much I have to chalk up to my distaste or disinterest in cars to him, but I'm not a car guy. Like I like motorcycles. But if it wasn't cars or NASCAR, it wasn't. He didn't care. He had no interest. He didn't want to talk about it. He didn't care. He didn't want anything to do with it. So it made it really hard to have anybody to talk to bond with. Like I had a male figure in my life, but no positive male role model. I wasn't being taught anything that like I needed to know. I wasn't learning things that genuinely should be taught to people, or let alone just boys at the time, especially at that age and adolescence. But so then you couple that with the idea and the fact of my mom being completely, just half there as a human being with the opioid stuff. It just became a really easy, I guess I just became a really easy target for my stepfather, because he was really bad at expressing his emotions or placing them properly. Like something went wrong, it was my mom's fault. And then I learned that if I could deflect his attention to me, then it was my fault. And then like it wasn't my mom's anymore. So I started to do that as a defense mechanism for my mom, because she wasn't capable of defending herself. So I got to the point where it was almost like waving a flag at a bull to get their attention, because I was more willing to have him take it out on me than my mom.
Yeah.
But
well,
good.
No, I was just going to say that it's again. Someone put a word in Japanese earlier. Overlordface put a word in what the Japanese have for "I'm sorry you went through that," which is it's too far up, or it's around here somewhere. I'm sure the Japanese say "kaiwaisu." I think was which literally translates to "I'm sorry this happened to you." But at the same time, I kind of just want to applaud you for it's terrible that you had to go through that, but I want to applaud you for kind of like for stepping in and deflecting that from your mum. Like that's given the fact that you knew what was coming in each of those situations, it's just very selfless of you to choose that choose that for you, so it didn't happen to your mum.
I didn't really. Thank you. I guess part of me felt like I didn't have a choice, because like my mom's not like a big person. Like she's 5'3", like, she, I tower over her. Like, I was taller than my mom at like 9 or 10 years old. Like, I'm 6'3", 200 and something pounds. Like I'm not a small guy. Like, but it didn't make any sense. Like I didn't, and he wasn't a small dude either. Like, he is, that wasn't the point, but it just didn't make any sense to see somebody, just my mom or not, just so defenseless. And especially with everything else she had going on, like, and it wasn't even like the things were her fault and I was just taking the blame for him. It was just his misplaced like anger about stuff, because looking back, he had so many unresolved issues in his own life that he never did anything about him, and he just ended up taking him out on us. So my first sister was born when I was 11. My mom and stepfather had gotten remarried by that point. The abuse is still regularly going on by him. I think it was in the next year and a half, 2 years, my mom gets pregnant again, obviously, and has my other sister. There's one instance that always sticks out in my head. And I don't know why. Maybe it's because like it just feels like really traumatic. But he was he was just so angry and like violent and aggressive. I remember one time we were getting DirecTV installed, and I at the time was really into football, and I was like, oh, like how, like, and I don't know, I'm probably like dating myself by now, but like the NFL Sunday Ticket thing, I was like, oh man, like how awesome would it be to like have that and watch multiple football games and stuff. And I remember wanting to like ask them if like we could do that. Like I was like, oh, like, you know, they're in here installing this would be awesome. And I remember asking him, my stepfather, about it, and he was like, he got so angry about like the idea that I basically wanted him to shell out more money for something or whatever. I just remember him just like screaming at me and yelling about like how I didn't have any money, so who was I to like try to spend his or whatever. And there's a you know everybody's have internet installed in their house. It's like to have a technician in your house. So there's this direct TV guy like in our house, like listening to this grown man scream at like this teenager. And I remember just getting fed up with it, and I went to go upstairs because we lived in a 2-story house and my room was on the second story. And I remember getting like halfway up the stairs, and I just remember just like getting yoinked back by my shirt, and he just like threw me down the steps. And I remember like laying at the bottom of the steps, like in pain, like clearly. And the direct TV guy.
If you want to swear, you can, by the way.
The direct TV guy stepped over me. And that like it's just like singed in my mind for like, I didn't understand like how, like, that just, I don't know. It just really, as I wasn't that old, like my mom couldn't do anything. And I just remember thinking like, I'm not going to ask for anything anymore. Like that, like it's not worth it. I don't know how much like the abuse and like physical violence, all can be attributed to it, but, it wasn't until the past 18 months that I found out that I have severe scoliosis and have for most of my life. My spine looks like a goddamn S. Never knew that. Never got treated for it, checked out, tested. And I can't imagine some of the things that had happened to me were good for it. But it's just like another one of those things where it's like, oh, well, maybe if we would have paid a little more attention to what was going on, some of these things that I'm now facing in my adult life wouldn't be just, oh, well, you fix it now.
It makes a lot of sense that would stick with you, that particular memory, because, I mean, I really lost my breath when you said about the guy stepping over you, because we think to ourselves, like, you're seeing this, you'd intervene. But that guy clearly is like, not my fight, and it's, yeah. I mean, I think a lot of people think that they'd react certain ways in different circumstances and different situations, and then so it's always a shock to hear that someone doesn't act that way. But at the same time, like there's a lot of people out there that think they'd never act like that probably would have done, because I don't know, they don't want to get that heat pulled onto them, which is obviously why I kind of said before about I feel you taking that heat from your mum was just such a powerful thing and such an important thing that you did there. When you said before, like you said I've told this to countless therapists, and you said. What you said to me the other day was that people are like, I believed you until this point. Has that ever been a therapist that said that to
you? No. Well, no. I mean, I want to give them the benefit. Yeah, no, I want to give them. No, I want to give them the benefit of the doubt and think that even when I left the room, like that's not what they thought. But there has definitely been times where I have left a therapist's office and thought they think that I'm fabricating something. I mean, even sitting here now talking to you, like the reason, I guess, and I'm just going to segue into it, that I think that I have the biggest issue with this is because when I was 18, I was still living at home. I had finished high school. I was working a job. I liked my job. I worked at the local grocery store, whatever. I was a cashier, atypical stuff. And I just remember one night I was feeling really down. And I had been in and out of therapy since I was like 4 or 5 years old to do with my parents' divorce. Like that was just like, they were like, oh, well, he comes from divorce, like put him in therapy. And that's kind of how it was.
Yep.
I hadn't ever told anybody about any of the sexual abuse that I had faced in my entire life before.
Mm-hmm.
So when I was 18, and I was in the middle of the summer, a couple of months after my birthday. I had sat my mom down one day and I had told her about all the abuse that I had endured from my cousins and from the guy who had lived with us. And she just burst into tears, and she said how sorry she was, and that, she wished that she had protected me and had done something, and she was so sorry. And I told her, like, I don't think it's your fault. Like, never once in my life have I thought that, like, you knew what was going on and just looked the other way. Like, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying, like, this happened. Like, I think getting it off my chest and talking to somebody is like the first step in truly healing. And like, that's the first step in trying to make things better, So I'm telling you. And I said, so this is what I got going on. I want to go to therapy and work through this. Please don't tell anybody.
Mm-hmm.
I got home from work the next day and my mom and stepfather were sitting at the kitchen table, and I basically got sat down and I was told, hey, like, I heard you're making up a bunch of bullshit, like, for attention. So, like, here's the deal. Like, you've already got your grandma and grandfather upset, and like, your mom's a mess. So you're going to just like cut the shit. Like, you can tell everybody that it's a lie and that you're like, that you're like, that this is nonsense, and like, we're going to move on. And I was just shocked. Like, first of all, like, I didn't understand why my mom felt the need to tell my stepfather. And her answer was that she was just so overwhelmed by the information that she needed to share it with somebody and talk to somebody about it, which I obviously was a huge breach of trust for me and like made me extremely uncomfortable. But at that point, I had zero interest in backing away from something that had taken me so long to open up about it. And so I told him no. I said, one, I'm not lying. Two, like, what do I have to gain by lying about this? Because I certainly don't want anybody's attention. I don't want any sympathy or pity or anything else. Like, I just want to get better. So I don't really understand like where there's any benefit to this. So I'm certainly not going to like tell you it's not true after like finally working up the courage to do so.
Yeah.
And I got told that I could admit that I was lying and that it was all fabricated and I was doing it for attention. Or I could leave. So I went upstairs and I packed what I could into my gym bag and I left. And then I spent I don't know, probably like the next 6 to 9 months, like couch surfing with my friends, house to house. I'd stay for a couple of days and not want to overstay my welcome, or somebody's mom would start to get uncomfortable or whatever. I wasn't exactly old enough where people had their own houses and it was like, oh, hey man, like, come crash here until things are, it wasn't like that. You stay for a couple of days and go to the next. I mean, there were times that I had slept in my car. I would Walmart parking lots are no stranger to me for sure. Neither is just like your local park or whatever. So yeah, I mean, I've slept in my car plenty of times. So after like 9 months, I think, my mom finally like got a hold of me through like my friends and stuff and told me that she wanted me to come home. And basically she had mentioned or had said like, hey, like, we're not going to talk about this, but I don't want you to like be homeless anymore. And I wasn't exactly old enough to have any kind of pride and say, no, like, we're not going to ignore this. I was like, okay, cool. Like, I'm coming home. Like, I'm going to sleep in my bed and like, I'm going to plug my Xbox in. Can't wait. I'll be there. All out, here I come. Um, I, but um, so that kind of there's like this weird area between me coming back to my mom or my mom and stepfather's place and that just kind of being swept under the rug and being kind of like this real stagnant area for my life. And then in like the next couple of years, that's when my mom ends up moving to Michigan, the attack from my stepfather. And then when that happened, when he attempted to stab me and we decided to leave, I met my mom in a grocery store parking lot. And as hard as I try to forget. And I don't think that I ever will, no matter how much she has tried to make things better throughout the years. I told her that what she was doing was unfair and it was selfish and it wasn't what a parent should do, that she wasn't really making the right choice by looking out for me, by protecting me. And I remember just like standing there, just like sun in my face. Like I just feel like sometimes I can't like forget the feeling. Like she just looked me in the face and said, "If you don't like it, leave." But I'm not divorcing your stepfather. And I remember, I remember getting in the car. We traveled, I don't know, Colorado. And I feel like that I probably ran out of like sodium and just pure like hydration in my body. I didn't stop crying for most of the drive. Shit.
It's okay, man. Take your time.
I'm sorry.
You've got absolutely nothing to apologize for.
It, I cried the whole drive. I just felt alone and abandoned. And I didn't have anybody. I mean, I had my fiance. She was still there with me. She still loved me and she was still by my side. But I genuinely felt alone. And it seemed like every day after that I talked to my mom or my grandparents, they always tried to guilt trip me into not being there, that I had left them, that I had somehow abandoned them. And I hated that. And I hated that, like, my own safety and the safety of my fiance, it took years for my mom to realize that she was guilting me over something that was completely unfair. After that, I didn't live with my mom or talk to her for probably 6 months. Well, I didn't live with her ever again, but I didn't talk to her probably for 6 months. It took her, I think after that point, another year and a half, probably before she divorced my stepfather. Started to get counseling and therapy for herself regularly and started to get diagnosed and treated for now what is her own mental health disease and conditions. A lot of which we share the similar diagnosis. Not really surprising.
Bloody genetics.
Yeah, right? I know, son of a bitch. Yeah. But so I'm still in therapy. I'm still in counseling, but it took probably up until the last 6 months to year to realize and even be able to acknowledge that that my mom was neglectful, that she was an absent part of my life, that she may not have directly been involved in the abuse, but it is a really hard pill to swallow when you go your whole life thinking that, And I think a lot of people think this, when you have one parent, you're raised by, single mom or dad, they're super mom, super dad. Like they play both roles. Like they don't have a choice. They try to fill both roles. They try to be everything. I mean, I was the only kid in Cub Scouts who had a mom. Like I got picked on because like I used to go to Boy Scouts and Cub Scouts, and I'd have the only, like my mom would be there and they'd be like, "Where's your dad?" And be like, "I don't know, asshole. He left." Like, so people always want to look at them as this like amazing, like perfect role model. But it took until I was a full-fledged adult and years into therapy to realize that those were rose-tinted glasses, and that my mom was neglectful, that she wasn't there for me, that she hadn't protected me when I needed it and when I needed her to be. And like I said, she might not have directly been the cause of the abuse, but her neglect towards it, could have changed a whole lot of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So and like I said, that's a brand new revelation for me personally. Like that is something that I am just now, I guess, learning or accepting through therapy in these past 6 to 8 months. And that is not an easy pill to swallow, especially when they're your own, like it's your only parent. Like you don't want them to go anywhere. You don't want them to just vanish out of your life. But then you get to this dilemma where it's like, well, how accountable do you hold somebody compared to wanting to mend and fix a damaged relationship? And I think that that's a true testament to being not an adult, but maturity. Mm-hmm. Like forgiveness is a word we throw around very easily. But the true definition, I think, is very different, because to be able to forgive somebody and to let go of that kind of hurt and that kind of trauma in favor of a relationship, of trying to have, a friendship with somebody, that's asking a lot out of both people. Not only the person willing to admit that they've made mistakes, but then also the person who is willing to accept that apology, knowing that they can't go back in time, they can't fix anything from the past, that they only want to make the present and future better. And it's a very pivotal thing as a human being, because a lot of people will say that they're ready for that or they're willing to do that. But what it really takes, and as a human being, like it's not easy, and it should not be taken lightly, and it's not an easy thing to do. I still struggle with it now. I'm still working through it. Some days suck, but I would rather work on the relationship with my mom than not have her in my life at all. And knowing that she could have walked away or could be putting zero effort in, I have to give that some major credit. Because if things were reversed, I have a daughter. If I was, in my mom's shoes and I was trying to have a good relationship with my daughter, and she just said, "No, fuck you, Dad. I don't want that." Like, that would be devastating. I couldn't come back from that as a human being. So the fact that she's trying so hard, I have to give her a lot of credit for that, because she doesn't have to, the same as I don't have to.
Yeah, and I think that's very big of you, and it's an important part in your own healing as well. Like forgiveness changed for me a lot when I realized that it's. I used to think of forgiveness in the very Christian / Catholic kind of way of things, and you forgive for the other person, you forgive and forget. And then it was only when forgiveness was put to me I believe it was Gandhi that said it. That it's like holding a coal in your hand. That is, no, it's like holding poison in your mouth that's intended for somebody else. And I realized that actually, who's the person that's getting hurt by this grudge? Who's the person that's getting hurt by this, by holding on to the past? I like to think of it as a hot coal, because I'm holding on to this pain because I want that
hoping
person
to burn the other person.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I want that person to feel what I feel, but they're never going to feel it. Like, nope. They're never going to feel it. If they had the capacity to feel that, they would have felt it at the time. And even if they feel something now because they've had some drastic realization in life, they're still never going to feel the exact pain. And even if they did, even if they felt the pain, it doesn't take the coal out of your hand. It just spreads the pain.
Right. And it's not what anybody really wants. Anybody suffering through any mental illness or suffering in any way, deep down, none of us want anybody else to suffer. I think you described it really well, is we want people to, I think, empathize and recognize what we're going through or how it affects us or how hard it is. I mean, I talk about it all the time, and so do you, like it. People think that it's so easy to stream, for example. Oh, push the button, sit in front of the camera. Yeah, it's great. Like, but for what? Like, why do people want to watch you? What's the point? Like, it's just people always undermine things because they don't understand them. So people don't understand mental health, and I mean, I love the old classic adage of, oh, like you're depressed, like more sunshine and exercise. Well, that's great. Now I'm hot, tired, and sweaty. Like, I don't feel any better. I'm still sad, but it's not working for me. Like, and I mean, I see your Twitter. Shout out to Dave and his buff pics to gym. Like, I see you. Like, I mean, and everything works for something. Like, you go to the gym. I ride my motorcycle. Like, you know, everybody's got something, but no one thing solves anything. I love streaming. I love video games. I love interacting and talking. I love talking to you now. But like, I'll be damned if like this solves my bipolar or my depression. Like,
if
you know,
it
like
does, can you write me a testimony on my website?
I will. I'll take pictures. I promise. We got somebody clip it. Chat, clip it.
Mindset by Dave fixed my bipolar.
Exactly.
Strange that he's not fixed his own yet, but
I mean, that's like the superhero like curse, right? You can fix other people's bipolar, but you're doomed to be bipolar forever.
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah, see, there it is.
I chose it in a game of Would You Rather. Would you rather not have bipolar disorder but not be able to help anybody else, or take one for the team? And I chose take one for the team because I'm such an angel, obviously. But
right.
But yeah, it's I know it's you're right. You're damn right. It's like everyone's self-care menu needs to be specific to them because it's what works, and that's why I don't really like making suggestions. I get people to write what I call the takeout menu, and I call it the takeout menu because they treat it like a takeout menu instead of a to-do list. And a to-do list, it's like I've got to do all of these things and before my self-care is done. But with a menu for a takeout, you go, right, I'm going to have one at number 6, one at number 4. Maybe a side of rice, and I'm going to go for it. And if you've got like 20 different ideas of things that might work, you look at that list one day and you go, you know what, I'm going to try that today. And that's how I get people to do it. But I have a running joke when I do seminars. I'm like, and I'm going to get you to write this list yourself. I'm not going to write it for you because I'm lazy. And it's like, but then it's like, no, the real reason it's inception. You're much more likely to do something that you've decided on yourself or you've discovered yourself.
Did you just pitch mental health a la carte to me?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you gotta put that on a t-shirt, man.
That actually, you know what? I'm actually writing that down. Mental health a la carte. Where's my notepad?
Chat, somebody quick.
Somebody send me. Can somebody send me mental health a la carte in a whisper? I'll get like 20.
Man.
I'll get like 20 whispers now, or none. It'll either be one or the other, kind of like bipolar. I do want to open this up to chat soon, but there's a couple more things. There's a couple more things I want to get to first. Actually, I'll tell you what, chat. If you've got any questions for Hair Guy, please at me. I know that might seem backwards to at me and not him, but I see it in the chat and they get highlighted, and that makes it easier for me to find them. And let's make it easy for the streamer because it's hard streaming.
That's right.
But the question, when we sort of first connected over this, it was the weekend that I was doing the episode on gatekeeping. And you said to me that with suffering sexual abuse, both from male, well, you didn't say relatives at the time, but like I know obviously now it's to be relatives now, but you've suffered sexual abuse both from male perpetrators and female perpetrators. You said there's a lot of people seem to not want to hear, but are accepting to hear the side of it that you were sexually abused by males. But there's a lot of gatekeeping around opening up about being sexually abused by females. Could you kind of delve into your experience there a bit for us?
I think that there's this weird stigma and stereotype that people are willing to accept that men are sexually abused by men because of pop culture and the internet and media. And there's this ridiculous stereotype that, you know, if you go to jail or prison, like you're going to be like sexually assaulted So I think a lot of that comes from people who are especially in America, and I can only speak for America because that's where I live, obviously. But I think that is a pretty like generally accepted thing. Is like, yes, there's sexual abuse and sexual assault between like men, but probably mostly like in the prison system. I think that's bullshit completely because as somebody who's been to jail, no. But the other part of that is like people. I don't know if it's their ignorance, if it's just their upbringing. I don't know what it is. I try to be as open-minded as possible, but I think when it comes to women sexually assaulting men, there's this weird thing that people always say that like, oh, well, like you had to enjoy it, right? Like I've heard that pisses me like, or like, I don't know. Like, I mean, I feel like that, like the chat and everybody else, like, I mean, I would hope that we're all adults. Like anatomy works just like the way it works. Like I can make my body do certain things, but there are certain things I have zero control over. Like, and that doesn't include being drugged or any other kind of restrictions or restraints or anything else. Like, I think that people think of it in a very stereotypical, like movie sense where it's like a girl is coming on to a guy and he's just like, oh no, I'm saving myself for marriage. Like they have this stereotype and like this portrayal in their head of like what they think that we're talking about, when in reality, like most of the time, like it's always much more violent and aggressive than people think. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's I don't want to mince and use the wrong word. I don't know what word I want here, and I don't want to like seem like it's sometimes I think that there is some real disturbance in how gentle somebody can be too. I don't know how else to word this properly, so I apologize. But like, especially like from the female perpetrator standpoint, like with somebody being like extra gentle, or I don't know how to word this properly. I'm sorry. But I think that has like a real psychologically damaging effect on people as well. Like because it's basically just another form of manipulation in that moment that then just distorts your perception of sex, big picture.
Yeah. And I think so many times people are like, well, with the kind of stereotypical male female divide, it's like, you couldn't possibly have been overpowered. And there's so much more to abuse than physical overpowering. As you said, there are levels of manipulation. There are,
for sure.
There's things like your male cousin wouldn't have even necessarily needed to have been physically stronger or anything, because he had that leverage of, I'm gonna kill your mum and grandparents. And as a child, you totally and utterly believe those things as well. And I remember explaining to my eldest son about bullying once, and about the whole not escalating it deliberately. I said, because the thing is, the person who's willing to, when you escalate things, the person who's willing to go the furthest will win. Like the person, like that person who's got the least to lose, or the person one time that I was assaulted by a guy in school was, basically with a knife, and I just ran as fast as I possibly could away from that, because I genuinely believe that he was willing to go as far as that. What was I willing to go as far as in that situation? Maybe kind of like throw some dodgy punches or whatever and stuff. I wasn't willing. Like if I escalated a situation with a bully, am I prepared to go as far as they are? And it's like, right. and the answer to that was always invariably no. I was never going to truly hurt somebody in order to.
Your fight or flight was always on the flight side, which is realistically defense mode. If that's what saves your life, that's fine. But at least you're self-aware enough to know that, which honestly has probably helped you in your life more often than not.
Well, I'm self-aware enough to look back and recognize it. I don't think I was sat there at the time, like doing one of those pick your own adventure books. If you run away from the bully, go to page 47. If you stand and fight, go to page 6.
Those were such fun books as a kid.
Oh, I love them. I love them.
I think the video games that they make like that with the whole Telltale, and I love those kind of games. Like, I love the decisions matter kind of stuff.
Yeah. Have you ever seen Black Mirror did an interactive TV episode of like that?
Oh, the Bandersnatch one?
Yeah.
I haven't watched. I love Black Mirror, for the record.
Black Mirror,
Like,
amazing.
yeah, I feel like I, I I sit there with like all the my list of diseases, and I always wonder like, this is not good for me to watch. This has got a lot of stuff. Like there's TV shows and stuff, and it's really weird because there have been times as a dad where the things that have happened to me were so damaging psychologically that I could not perform basic health, like just care for my child, not because I didn't want to, but because I felt like that I was doing something wrong.
Yeah.
That hands down has to be one of the biggest things that I am personally like proud of, that I was able to overcome and just like get through, was the fact that when my daughter was first born, I could not change her diaper. I did not have the mental capacity to get through cleaning her, which is exactly what I was doing, without feeling like that I was doing something wrong, that I was a monster, that I was somehow hurting her. And it took me months and months for me to be able to change a diaper with my fiance right there next to me, or my mom standing there just like watching me, like, because I felt like disgusting. And it took just so much like reassurance that I wasn't doing anything wrong, and that it actually would have been worse and bad for her, obviously, if I wasn't cleaning her and changing her diaper and stuff. And that took so much like reverse psychology and just like retraining my brain, that is one of the first things I look to when I think about how has my trauma impacted me as a human being, but yet how have I gotten over it?
Yeah.
Or been able to work through it. I look at that example and I think, I work from home, obviously. Well, I mean, I work from home. So if my wife is, working late nights, who the hell else is going to shower our daughter? Like, I mean, I like, it's just like part of being I'm just a parent, parental responsibility. Like, that's not a big deal. Not an issue for me. Like, that's just like, hey, it's shower time. We're in the shower, we got to get you cleaned up. Like, but, too many years ago and no, that wouldn't happen. Like, there's no way I could have done that.
Yeah. The thing I've found that, like, over the years with people I've spoken to is that, unfortunately, the people who actually do the best job feel like they're doing the worst. And it's that feeling like they're doing the worst, feeling like they're, they need to be more, they need to do better as a parent. The parents that are, regardless of where the trauma was at, the parents that are conscious about not becoming their own parents. I know obviously it was your stepfather that was, and cousins, but still not becoming that person. Like, I was so keen on not to become my dad. My dad left when I was 6 as well. And like when I ended up cheating on my first wife, who was the mother of my kids, that was one of the worst things for me to do. I literally then was like, I've become my dad, because that was one of the things I accounted to my dad for being. But the thing is, it's the person that's conscious of that. Now the problem is, the person that's conscious of that beats themselves up about it. And one thing I try and tell people now is you don't say what you don't want to become, you say what you do want to become. Because if you say, I don't want to be a monster, in your head you now have a picture of you being a monster, which makes you feel pretty shitty. And and as a result, weirdly enough, we can't. It's like the serial killer in the slasher movies. The faster you run away from it, it just walks after you and catches up to you. So I wish I'd have known this back then, because I actually ended up by saying, I don't want to become my dad, I don't want to become my dad, I don't want to become my dad. It's like, saying don't touch wet paint. It's like suddenly I want to stroke the wall. I didn't want to become my dad, but my brain is hearing, I don't want to become my dad, become my dad, become my dad. If I said to you, don't call him beard guy, like, instead of hair guy, it's like, don't call him beard guy, don't call him beard guy, don't call him beard guy. I've practiced the word beard guy like 10 times by the time I speak to you. I'm like, hey, beard guy, I mean hair guy. Oh. And this is the whole thing is, but what I've met so many great parents and a lot of really great dads that they've got that consciousness in the first place. I don't want to become that, and it might kind of make you feel bad that you don't want to become that, and therefore you're constantly saying, "Am I that?" But at the same time, it's usually the people that never question it. And I hate this, because the ones that think they're doing the best job are usually the ones that are doing the worst job. I did everything right by my children. It's all your fault that you turned out the way that you did. What? It's like, it's those people. Those are the ones that you those are the ones that need to watch out for, because by knowing what you don't want to become, it shows that you have a moral compass. It shows you have a sense of justice and a sense of what is right. By never even thinking about that twice. It's like
100%. I agree with you. I think the unfortunate thing, though, is because you and I come from a similar background, is sometimes the only thing we have as being raised by single moms, and then you become a parent, is you go, I have no goddamn idea what a good dad looks like. So all I know is just what not to do, what not to do. And my mom kept telling me, and my fiance, my wife now, same thing. If you know what not to do, you'll never end up doing those things, because you know how shitty they made you feel or how detrimental they were to you. So if you know what not to do, that's fine. So avoid those and do everything else. And I really like your point about the parents who question or don't question themselves, because I every day question myself if I'm a good parent, if I'm doing enough. Like, I'll have a day off and it'll get to the end of the day and I'll think I didn't do enough. We didn't, she wanted to go to the park and to the batting cages and get ice cream, and we didn't make it to the batting cages. And I'm just like, shit. I have a terrible habit of making a list of 20 things, finishing 18 of them, and only caring that I didn't do those 2.
Yeah,
that is hands down. And if anybody from my chat is if Tech's still around, he's gonna be yelling in your chat, because as my main man, when my mods and best friends, he will tell you that I overthink everything, and that is that is just how it is. I'm focused on the 2 things I didn't get done, but I'm combating that by making my list shorter.
Okay. One thing I was going to say actually is because I've met a lot of people that have that same issue. You've got 99 things to do, you focus on the one that you don't. The question is, if you had that list and it was 20 items long, and you did all 20, would you secretly go, I could have done 21?
No, I'd be making my list for tomorrow, and I'd make the list for tomorrow 21.
That's
there it is.
That's good.
That's
good.
Yeah,
well, I was going to say there's two levels to perfectionists that I've met. There's the perfectionist that has the negativity bias, which we all have negativity bias built into us. So I've done 19 things. I focus on the one thing I haven't done. But then the true perfectionist, or it's funny because a lot of this from my line of work comes we can get down to a core of someone making you feel like you weren't good enough, and we have certain roles we have to reach in order to be good enough when we're a kid. And it's funny because if we sit there and go, right, well, what do we think we needed to do to be good enough in our parents' eyes, or in your case, your parents, your step parents, your grandparents' eyes, and the list is probably the list of what you thought you needed to do in order to be good enough in that situation is ridiculously long. Mm-hmm. What does your daughter need to do to be good enough in your eyes?
What does my daughter need to do?
Yeah,
for me to. What does my daughter need to do for me to be good enough?
No, for her to be good enough in your eyes.
Oh, for her, I just want her to be happy. I want her to be happy. Whatever that means for her. As stereotypical as it sounds, but I am very genuine about this. I don't care who she loves, what she's into, what she's about. I just want her to be happy. If that means that she wants to play soccer, if she wants to go play football, sports, I would support my kid in anything she wants to do, because to me that is what is being a good parent, is supporting your kid no matter what, because that's really what we need, or what they that is what is needed in those times, is not to be told, hey, that's stupid, hey, that's whatever, another derogatory term. No, people need to hear that's awesome, well, let's look into that more. Where can we learn more about it? Let's go practice. I love the fact that my daughter's like, hey, like, can we go play catch in the yard? I love that. Like, does that mean that I expect her to play softball come like elementary school and stuff? I mean, if she wants to, I don't care. Like,
no, but I've bought the entire outfit.
Damn right, man. She's gonna be popping. Chat, I need y'all to donate. I'm trying to get her the newest Nike. No, no, but like if she, I mean, I've been asked to put her in ballet and dance recital. Earlier today, she asked me to buy her a punching bag, and I was like, "Yo, like, should I be worried? Like, what is going on around here?"
No,
like,
she's asking her to buy a punching bag, not to be one. So
I know. No, I mean, it's just. I would like to look at it as that I'm not spoiling my child because I'm not buying her toys and saying, oh, here you go. Like, here's whatever. I would like to think that I am like feeding her like hunger for life. Mm-hmm. Like, if she wants to go to the batting cages, well, let's go. If she wants to go and like buy one of those little, balsa wood airplanes that you push together and you throw it once, it hits something and it snaps into three pieces. Like, fine. Like, all right, we learned something about aerodynamics today. But I think that there's a big difference, obviously, between spoiling them and then, feeding the appetite for life. But whatever she wants to do, like as long as she's happy and she feels that she was loved and supported along the way, I feel like that is like the foundation for her to succeed in any sense.
Yeah. Amazing. Question from the chat from Jackster. Do you find talking aloud about your story therapeutic or empowering? I know you are awesome and share your story to help others, but I hope by saying it aloud, it further strengthens your internal recovery.
Well, thank you. First of all, I appreciate the kind words. It's really a mixed bag because I feel like in some weird way, like, I don't know. So total disclaimer, I don't do like typical therapy where people, I think what most people think, where you go and you sit down and it's, you're sitting across from a therapist and they're like, well, talk to me. Mm-hmm. I do what is called brain spotting, which I'm sure you probably know, but chat might not be as familiar
I do not.
With. Really? Okay, great. Everybody's going to learn today, guys. Cool. So brain spotting is a type of therapy where I basically go in and my therapist asks me to either be she worded it because it was easiest for me to understand, to be semi-agitated or kind of in a panic attack or kind of like, on the cusp of like being overly angry, just kind of having like the emotional adrenaline moving and like, so it's easier to just get to the emotions, So I go in and I sit down, I'm like, hey, what's up? Whatever. And I put on these headphones and, my personal choice is like thunderstorms and rain, but white noise of some kind. And then she usually either has a pointer or something, like she waves around and I don't know exactly. I think it's something to do with the eye movement, but basically she finds and then, so the noise is loud enough that I can just barely hear her over the noise. And then she basically has me focus on an emotion. And then it's everything against your bodily instincts, because then you latch onto it and then you follow it and you dive deeper, and everything your body tells you, no, don't go like any farther. Don't, like, you get happier, like come up. Like, you basically are like just holding on to this huge anchor and just sinking in the ocean, like getting like really what's going on. And like, you just dive like deeper and deeper into like your emotional subconscious to find out, like, I come in and I'm like, oh, I'm pissed off. And she's like, well, anger is a secondary emotion. What's really going on? I don't fucking know, man. I'm pissed. Like, and then 20 minutes later, it's like, oh, well, I'm sad because nobody listens to me. So I yell because I don't feel heard. I'm not angry at all. I yell because I don't feel heard. Mm-hmm. So for me, that is the kind of therapy that I specifically do, because, and I didn't mean to like kind of like round about the question, but the point is like, it's weird because I almost feel like when I do the stereotypical talking or, telling my story or that kind of therapy, I feel whiny. I feel like, oh, dude, like, he's just complaining. Like, yeah, that sucks, but bro, like, move on. It's in the past. Like, and all those things are great. Like, if that's how it worked, and like, if that was like, oh yeah, man, I'm over it. Thank you for the advice. Like, so it's weird because I don't tell my story and I don't talk about it because I definitely don't want sympathy and I don't want anybody's pity. I hope that maybe somebody looks at me and they go, dude, that guy looks weird as shit. What did he said all that happened to him? And then they're like, you know what? Like, I got something I want to say. And that's it, really. Like, maybe they look at me and they go, dude, if that dude can look that weird and like have some stuff that he's got to say, like maybe me being open about what I have to say in this vessel, like, is enough to let somebody else find their voice within themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean,
you're still taking one for the team over there, aren't you?
I mean, at some point in time, though, like, what is my other option, though? Like, because you either accept, like, I mean, I don't know, like somebody.
I'm not knocking it, by the way.
Somebody once wiser told me that I should know when to hold them, know when to fold them, know when to walk away, know when to win. Don't DMCA us.
Hey, look, I sing that shit, so it's like with a guitar and all that stuff, and we haven't been DMCA striked yet. But striked, is that even a word? And my initials are DMC. There's no A on the end of it though, so that's the Canadian version of me, DMCA. I'd actually put an extra A on the end to it then. Yeah, I thought it was related to EMDR, which is what I do know, which involves lights and movements and stuff, but it's not apparently. And my resident big brain in the chat up for the challenge, basically, no, he knows everything. He knows everything. So that's it's one of the reasons we keep him around. But yeah, it was. He said I'd probably like brain spotting. And he's probably right, because I mean I love finding out all sorts of things about different ways in which we can actually treat things, and it goes back to that list of things for your own self-care, is that different therapeutical approaches work for different people, and different therapists obviously work for different people as well.
100%, yeah. I'm not a doctor, obviously, but I would like to tell your chat, if your therapist is not working for you, please do not hesitate to look for a new one. There's definitely a professional and proper way to go about it. You don't have to be rude. You don't have to be disrespectful. I'm not even recommending anything. I'm just saying, like, if you feel like your therapist isn't working, try to look for a new one, because you are 100% right. I have been through many therapists in my life. I have been in therapist's office. I have been there through my first meeting, and I did 90% of the talking, and I walked out and I said, I ain't never going back there. you know, like, or at least I would hope that people are aware enough to know if it's going to work for them.
Not a lot of people. Well, I mean, maybe I've got a bit of a bizarre user bias, obviously, because obviously the people that do know enough to go, right, I'm going to keep going with the right therapist until I find the right therapist, and that's all. They're probably not looking for mental health advice from Twitch streams. So, but it's like the expression I use for it is, if you have a plumber and the plumber comes along, fixes your pipes, but then they start leaking again, and that keeps on happening, you're going to change plumber. You're not going to go, oh, no one can fix this. You're not going to, hopefully not going to stick with that plumber for a very long time.
God, I hope not.
But at the same time, you're also not just going to let the pipes sit there and rot. And so you'll go to a different plumber. You'll ask for some recommendations. And it's the same thing. It's like, just because someone is a therapist doesn't mean that they are a good therapist. And even if they've got really good reviews and they are a good therapist, it's about finding a good fit. It's about finding the person that fits with you. And those are the two biggest pieces of medical advice I give. Ooh, he's giving medical advice. No, I'm not. Is number one is basically, if therapy doesn't work for you first time, or with the first therapist, don't write it off, go again. And the other one that I give is, when you approach your doctors for the first time, spend some when getting clear on what you want to say to them. Maybe even write it down, so that when you do open up, because let's face it, if you've got, like, most, I hate this phrase, but most mental health situations have comorbidities. Oh, I hate the word comorbidity. But so, for example, both you and I have got bipolar disorder, but we've got it with anxiety thrown in as well. So anxiety means I need to spend a lot of time getting to know a person before I'm ready to open up about certain things. That's great. especially if it's your doctor. And in the UK, you get like 50. We get it for free, but it's not for long.
Oh, I see. Rubbing it in again.
No,
Free
I'm
universal
not.
health care. No,
I'm not rubbing it.
Kidding.
It'll be gone in about 10 years, unfortunately. But
10 years.
yeah,
10 years.
no, but no, we get it for free, but it's because it's free. It's like you get 15 minutes with a general, if you're lucky, with a general practitioner who may or may not give a shit about mental health. They might prefer to, work with urinary tract infections or something.
It's unfortunately it's very common around here with your common family doctor. My PCP right now, primary care physician. For anybody who doesn't know, I don't want them to think he's doing what. No,
I thought that stuff went out of fashion.
Oh man, people aren't old enough to know Training Day. We can't make any Denzel references. They won't get it. They're not old enough.
There's a few though. There's a few though.
I am. No, I know.
I'm the eldest.
It's just I've had my doctor tell me just I don't, I'm too old. I don't specialize in mental health. Like I'm it's not that he's not exactly willing to help me, but he's very clear. He's not a specialist. He doesn't really understand it. Like it wasn't a thing when he was, practicing and studying to be a doctor, which is a really unfortunate thing to think that, 10 years ago, even like, I feel like that's a pretty, decent number. Like that puts 20, we'll say 20, maybe to even be super fair. 20 years ago, mental health was not a thing. Like if you walked into the doctor's office, you said you were sad. You said that you felt very unhappy about life, maybe some other worse things. They either strapped you to the bed, and I am sorry that triggers anybody because that has happened to me. It is not fun, but I have become pretty much like, I don't go to ERs anymore. Like I won't talk to ER doctors because of experiences like that. Like after being told, no, you have to put on a gown to talk to us, I said, no, I don't. No, like you're not. I'm not. No, never again will I be like unwillingly strapped to a bed. Like that's. But like they just like 20 years ago, that wasn't a thing. They didn't understand. There wasn't. You got some Zoloft or Prozac. Like, but they didn't talk to you about things. They didn't try to find out more. There wasn't a mental health clinic. That wasn't a thing. Like. You went to the neurologist if like you hit your head, you got a concussion, if they thought you had a, epilepsy, seizures kind of stuff. Like, I'm waiting to go to like a university, like to, to see the neurologist and that kind of stuff to find out what the hell is going on with my brain. Like, you go after going to the doctor long enough and them saying, hey, like, well, we've tried, 30 different prescriptions and, it's still not working. Like, I'm not exactly the kind of person to say, okay, well, we tried. Like, guess I'll just ride it out. Like, no, like I'm tired of waking up and feeling this way. Like there's gotta be answers. Like we might not have them all now. We might not have them all tomorrow, but I know in at least 20 years, we've made a lot of strides and a lot of progress. So maybe in the next 20, 30, 50, we'll make more.
Yeah. I mean, the chapters haven't all been written on this yet. There's still room for things to change. There's still definitely things in the future. I'm hopeful. I'm very hopeful for that. I want it to come sooner, obviously. I'd love for some more answers, like sooner rather than later. But yeah, I think it's important as well that you're fighting for it. Like, not so many people are. You said you're not the kind of person to sit there and go, okay, we gave it our best shot. But this is why I've got a sort of love-hate relationship with the phrase, it's okay not to be okay. Because it's okay not to be okay. It's supposed to validate a person that's not having a good day or a good time and let them know that that's like, it's okay if you are feeling like that. But for a lot of people, it's almost like, okay, well, I've got to live with this forever now, and I've just got to kind of be okay with it. And that's not what it was. That's not what it was saying. But that's what a lot of people are hearing.
I want to touch on that real quick. I don't mean to interrupt you. I do want to touch on that because that is actually something that I legitimately say and or believe, and also as a command in my chat. But I want to add that. But what mine says is it's okay to not be okay, but it's not okay to not ask for help. And that's the difference, because I genuinely like. And as somebody who has heard these things and has been told, and I always can attribute the adage similar to telling a drowning person just to breathe, is like what the hell good does that do? It's the same thing as telling a person who's panicking to calm down or relax. Like, so I understand how people can feel invalidated by it, but as somebody who really struggles with that stuff, I like the sentiment behind it, or the idea if it's used properly, because sometimes for me, the reality of it is that today may suck. Yeah. Like, but my options are extremely limited in either giving up completely and letting it consume me and much darker things, or never getting out of bed and feeling sorry for myself. But the reality of it is no matter what we're going through, what we have going on, or what may be happening, the sun is still going to get up, still going to rise tomorrow. You can feel shitty. That's fine. You can feel sorry for yourself. That's okay too. I wouldn't recommend it, but it's okay. But the reality of it is life is going to go on no matter how you feel. So even if you are feeling shitty, that's okay. We got to do something about it. Like the difference between feeling sorry for yourself and asking for help is exactly that. It's asking for help. Mm-hmm. If you're having a bad day, that's fine. But what did you do to try to fix it? Because I'm guilty of this myself, laying in bed, not wanting to get out of bed. I'd not like to admit this. There have been times that I haven't showered or brushed my teeth. I heard a sentence or a story the other day that somebody said, "Oh my God, people's mental health gets so bad that they stop brushing their teeth." And they said, "No, Karen, people's mental health gets so bad that they, off themselves." Like, like brushing your teeth is not like people get shocked by that, but they don't. Those are the people who don't really get it. So those are your options. You can feel sorry for yourself. Like, you can do nothing. Like, I can stay in bed and I can just wallow in my own self-pity, or I can decide that the sun's still going to be there. Wind's still going to blow in my face. My daughter is still going to wake up in the morning. Like, so I can feel how I want to. And I am not invalidating anybody who's having a bad day, because trust me, I was feeling shitty yesterday. I damn near canceled on you because I was nervous to be here, and I'm so glad that I didn't. You've
bloody nailed it.
You're allowed to not feel okay. Yeah. You gotta do something about it. I mean, let's put it in streaming terms, okay? So your audio sucks, right? You're just gonna like let the mic sound shitty. Like, you're just gonna be like, "Oh, guys, sorry." Like, oh, dude, should I do it too? Hang on. I'm gonna do it to you just because I can. Just because it's gonna happen. Be like,
he's got voice.
All right, guys. So, can you fix tech? My microphone's doing that thing again. Fuck it. This is how we stream from now on. It's like, so I mean, that's your option. Like, we can.
I'll do this.
Yeah, dude. Like, oh, Dave, man. Like, you should get a new camera. And you're just like, no. No.
This one's fine. We just have to sit really close to it.
Yeah. No, right there. You nailed it. You adjust to my problem. You nailed it right there. That's people's issues. Everybody wants them to adjust to their issue when nobody's really willing to work on themselves. Like, you nailed it in that sentiment. Like,
yeah, well, that was my entire quest last year, which by the way won me 0 friends. Actually, well, a few people in chat will say like they won me a few friends, but because it's funny for someone within the mental health space to take the attitude of what can we do, but I actually I've taken the attitude of what can both sides do. Like, because if it's the only way, there's a great, I can't remember what it's called. It's called like reciprocal something or mutual something or other. Up for the challenge, will fix it for me in a minute. Instead of saying that it's me versus you, right? So let's say me and you, like, we can't communicate with each other, right? Instead of that being me versus you, like me thinking, oh, well, Hair Guy just needs to listen to me better, and you thinking, well, Dave just needs to speak better. Instead of us being me versus you, we go the two of us against the problem. Yep. And the problem is our lack of communication. Now, that's the whole thing, is that with unconditional mutual support, no, but that's a good one. It's called, I'll know it when I see it. I really should know this, because ultimately mental health is never going to be fixed whilst the people who suffer, it's probably never going to be fixed anyway, but it's never going to be like, it's never going to make great strides forward when the people who struggle with it want the world to adjust to them. and when the world wants the people who struggle to adjust to the world, and and both sides want that. What we need the people on this side, when we've got the energy to do so, we need to go, how can I do this better? And the people on this side, when they've got the energy to do so, say, how can we support these people better?
I wanna piggyback off that real fast. I'm sorry. What you said about I'm gonna assume that we are the people on the first on the first side.
We're the people.
Yeah.
We're the mental people.
I want to kind of make a statement for us, and I hope that anybody listening doesn't take it like pushy or offensively. I think that we need to do a better job at trying to communicate how those people, the other people, can help. Because I personally am really guilty of getting anxious, panicky, in a bad mood, whatever, and saying, fix it, make it better. Like, and sometimes I forget that there are people without mental health issues, that they don't know what it's like to deal with that stuff, that they don't know why something bothers me so much, or why something doesn't bother me, or why something, I respond differently to something than the average person. So for as difficult as it is for us to think, wow, they don't have any problems, it's got to be so much harder in a genuine understanding and wanting to be genuine about it for them to go, how does that affect them? How do they live with that? Like, so we need to do a better job at trying to help them understand, because let's be honest, they're not, like, most people are not just going to develop mental health issues.
Thankfully.
And for the record, I would never wish any mental health issue upon anybody. They do say that, tragedy makes you funny, but I mean, it's all subjective.
Again, we don't want them to hold a hot coal. We just want them to know what it feels like to hold a hot coal.
Because unfortunately, they can't.
Exactly, and they never will. Unfortunately, because we don't tend to empathize with things that we haven't been through ourselves, and unless we do compare, unless we go to like something, and it's like. It's one of those things that I think you're right, and that's one of the things I've tried to do with when I speak to people who don't understand mental health. First of all, the last thing on my list is going to be condemning them for not understanding mental health. I'm 39 years old. I've had bipolar disorder for 25 of those years. I still don't know much about it. Well, I know a lot about it, but I don't know. I know it's one of those situations where I know a lot about it, but what I don't know about it is way more than what I do know about it, And so therefore, no one else is ever going to do that. And I've done that with 25 years of experience of living with it, as well as studying it, as well as having counselling and therapy. So with all those things that I've learned in that time about it, I'm still just scratching the surface. I've got a neuroscientist on Tuesday. I'm going to get him to tell me what's going on inside of my brain on a neurological level.
Nice.
Yeah, it's called a podcast, but really it's just free therapy.
Get it where you can get it.
Well, it's not actually. I should say that it's not therapy because he's not a therapist. But that's the whole thing. Is that when I realized that, I'm like, okay, because we do often lash out and say, you just don't know what it's like, or you're never going to understand all these things. And it's like, of course, they don't. Yeah. And as a result, so it's like, okay, well, given the fact that you don't understand and they never will be able to live through that, how then do we communicate about it?
I think the flip side of that is, if we're being honest with ourselves, we will never truly know what it's like to live mental illness free. And that's why I think the disconnect. Well, seriously, because I think
honestly, no one's ever flipped it around, and I'm like, damn it.
No, because that's the thing. That's what I'm saying is I feel like, as somebody who represents this community, like, we have to try harder, because I think to some degree, I don't want to say simulate. Like, I'm not trying to say like, oh, like we can help you really feel like, but they can, to a degree, understand what like a panic attack or something. But we will never, ever, ever know what it's like to wake up and have no anxiety, no issues, no worries. My brain functions. So that is like where we really have to try to like meet in the middle, because for as hard it is for them, like I have people in my life who don't have mental illness, and they are trying, but I know that I also have to do my part to help them understand, or do what I can to explain things better, because they're never going to understand and neither am I. So, and mine's not going anywhere, similar to how theirs isn't, like you said, obviously things can develop, but health issues don't go away. So I just feel like that, like you said, when we have the energy, and that's very specific to the term, because it's not always, and our energy, I'm sure a lot of your chat knows about the spoon theory.
Yep.
Like, so, I mean, we don't always have the energy for everything, but when we do, we have to make a conscious effort to try to talk to people more, because if we want to be understood, we have to explain ourselves rationally. And I am very guilty of not doing that as often as I would like, because I guess when I really want to be heard, or when I'm really feeling those emotions, they don't come out rational and sound. And then that just makes me look pretty stereotypical or ignorant, or just, it kind of makes my whole argument null and void if I can't even explain it calmly.
Yeah. Yeah. That's one of the things I would really love to get across to a lot of people who don't struggle with their mental health is, don't expect a person who's symptomatic to act like they're not. Because the thing that you're so right in terms of how I will more readily express myself when I'm in a more emotionally heightened state, but I might be more forthright with what I'd say, but it's not controlled. It's not going to be measured. It's not going to be. My choice of words might be very poor.
And you're probably angry, aren't you? And you're probably angry, right?
And I'll be angry, and I'll be talking faster, and I'll be talking louder, and then that's going to make the person that's listening to it be defensive. And if that person wants me to be the more rational person in that situation, it's not going to happen.
Nope. And they're not going to talk you down either.
Yeah. But you know what? It's not through lack of trying. And it's not because I want to be in that state. But at the same time, when I'm more measured, and when I'm, say, roughly here where I am now, this is me somewhere around 60 to 70% in terms of where my mood goes to, because like I'm not manic today, which is good. It might mean I might sleep on a Saturday night for a change. Interviews can get me quite manic.
I heard that sometimes you have the occasional beer. We should have a beer off stream sometime.
We should do. I might have one. Tonight. I don't know. I've got some mango that goes out of date tomorrow, so I'm going to eat that after stream. I know it's exciting, isn't it? I'm going to make a mango crazy. But the thing is, when I'm at this level, sometimes you don't want to have those conversations because you don't want to fuck it up. Yep. And I say this to people a lot in terms of, sometimes the conversations we want to have, they're very uncomfortable to have, and we will have them. I mean, this is something that pretty much anyone can relate to. This isn't to do with mental health. This is to do with any time you've ever had an argument. Sometimes when you argue, the things that you've been sitting on, that you've wanted to talk about, come out. Because the emotions are heightened. And the thing is, you've wanted to bring these things up, but we don't like to disturb the equilibrium. Yep. And that's often
don't rock the boat.
Yeah, that is the way that a person with mental health will communicate a lot of the time, is that we don't want to rock the boat. We don't want to disturb the equilibrium. We don't want to have the triggering conversations when we're currently not triggered.
No, because if you're not in a bad mood, if you're not triggered, you don't want to be. That's why I always tell people, the minute that you think that therapy's going well and you don't want to go to that appointment, because that's the appointment that you skip, and then everything goes to hell. And I have been there firsthand, and I 100% agree with you. Yeah, no, people don't, especially people like you and I, we don't want to have those conversations when things are going well. My wife and I have had those conversations regularly, and she said, like, are you sure you want to talk? Like, things are going so good today. Like, do you really want? And I said, yeah, because if we don't talk about it, what? Like, we ignore it. Like, we pretend it doesn't exist. Like everything has consequences. Like, just because we are mental health sufferers does not mean that we want to like live our life like consequence free. Like, I still want to be held accountable for my actions as a human being. I just want somebody to look at them through the proper lens when they look at me as a person, because there's a difference between healthy eyes and eyes that need glasses. And I think that the issue is that mental health is an invisible illness. Therefore, people don't look at it the same. If you got a broken arm, bones poking through the skin, somebody's going, oh my God, that thing's broken. We need to get him to a hospital. right? Because blood and, and bone and people are recognize and notice that's pain.
Yeah.
But you can see somebody sitting alone on a park bench, not saying a word, and that person can be on the verge of the worst stuff in his life. People think, he's lonely, he's bored, like, he's waiting for the bus. People can't see it, and I think a lot of stuff with my mom at an early age helped me realize this. Just because you couldn't see pain doesn't mean it wasn't there, especially when she was trying to figure out what was going on with her. Because, like I said, fibromyalgia wasn't even a real diagnosis when she first was getting diagnosed with it. We're talking early 2000s. So that's the issue is, there's no prize for trauma, and just because something's invisible doesn't mean it doesn't hurt. And I think that the more aware we can be about that, whether it is just checking in on your friends or, talking to people, I tell people regularly, whether it's on stream, Discord, just anywhere, anybody who will listen, when's the last time you talked to a friend of yours? When's the last time you talked to somebody you love? You don't have to have great news. You don't have to have a present to give them. Call them, be like, hey, what's up? Just homie check. How are you? What are you doing? How's life? Just you got to check in on the people that you care about, because most people, at least in my experience, aren't willing or don't ask for help. They are, I don't know. I come from a generation, unfortunately, and I know that you can relate to this, where boys don't cry. Men don't have feelings. Man up. I hate that. As far as I'm concerned, the only thing man up means is next in line. We better be shooting hoops at the Y, and it's my turn at the free throw line. I hate that shit. Because that stunted me as a human being. That made me uncomfortable. It took years and years for me to say, hey, I'm sad. Hey, this makes me uncomfortable. And no, as a guy, I don't know. And I know it has a lot to do with the things that I personally went through, but telling people no, or that I didn't like something that is a new, setting boundaries is new to me as a human being, which is such a foreign thing when I tell people that, because obviously I'm not a little kid, but it was something I wasn't taught that. I didn't know how to do that safely and comfortably because of those things. So I hate it when people are just men shouldn't show. Why? If we're all about equal rights and we want everybody to be treated equal, which for the record, we should, there's no question about that. Everybody should be treated we're all fucking human. That's end the sentence right there. We should all be treated the same. So why can't I be sad? Why can't I cry? Why can't I be hurt by something? And I know that a lot of your community, people those, you will tell me it's fine, and I believe you. But there is a good portion of, I like that. I don't know. I think mine's out. I literally have I go through mine faster. I'm, and somebody in your chat's gonna crucify me for this, but I use nice toilet paper on the roll. I have a roll because I go through the box of tissues too quickly. So I use toilet paper. So, and usually I have a cup holder on my desk, and instead of having a cup there, my toilet paper is there for me.
Well, because I'm toxically masculine, I used to, up until I got that box, I used to use my sleeve.
I want to show you this, because this is actually, speaking of sharing our feelings and stuff, and you might actually love this, and I'll get you the Amazon link and all the above. So this is my emotional octopus, right?
I know these. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is when everything's going good and I'm feeling happy, and then things are going sad and down. And yes, dude,
this one doesn't reverse though.
I saw it and I was he needs a purple one in his life, because I think there's a purple, there's a purple shiny one that and I was oh, that'd look perfect on his shelf. No, this is a great tool for talking and share, because it's not always easy to just be oh, well, that makes me sad, or oh, I'm bothered by that, because I think that we're taught deal with it. You're not allowed to say that, oh, I don't like that. I'm not, can we compromise? Can we change? Can we work on something? It's either you love it or you love it, and you don't say that you don't like it. There's no middle ground. And I just really want to break that stigma, especially for guys in general, because I know May is Mental Health Awareness Month, but And like with anything that is celebrated with a month, it should be celebrated like all the time and always. And we should be talking about it constantly. It shouldn't be retained to 1 month. And that goes for all things. Like, I just, but it's really hard, like, because I do feel like there's this extra stigma layered on top of mental health and then on top of like men in general, where it's just like, oh yeah, mental health's a thing, but not for dudes. Like, I don't know. Like, it really is tough. Like, and I don't want, like, and I'm not trying to piss anybody off, but I feel like that, like, a woman can say, like, she could tweet something, right? About mental health, depression, her specifically being sad, and that will garner a lot of attention. A man of the same caliber could do the same thing, and it might garner attention, but 90% of it's going to be negative, telling him to man up, get over it, calling him a bitch or a pussy, shit like that, or completely ignored. And that's where I get most frustrated about this, is because if we want equality, if we want things to be equal, if we want people to be treated equal across the board, why would we make something, you know, I didn't pick my mental health. The same as somebody didn't pick their skin color or anything else. That was not a choice for me, because trust me, if I had a choice, I would not choose to have these mental health issues, like, straight up. So I think that it needs to be looked at in a very similar manner. Like, we have zero control over this. So why should we be scrutinized or put any under more pressure or anything else, when if we want equality, this seems like a great place to start, because mental health doesn't discriminate. You and I have talked about that. It doesn't care who you are, what you look like, what you're about. Like, it just is.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. One thing, by the way, just on the topic of it with men and women, the weirdest thing about this is that what you've just described there is in public and out and on things like social media. We did a bit of kind of investigation into it by asking people who've opened up within the mental health industry it was either it was the year before, because it was while we were still able to go outside and do things. And the funny thing is there's actually a little bit of a flip on that discrimination now, because of the situation where men are now beginning to open up. Men, when they open up within the mental health space, get treated as if they're really, really strong. Like, it's almost like that's how because we want more men to open up, that's how we kind of treat it. And there's a lot of women that open up within the mental health space that get the opposite now. So there's this is again that whole not them and us, but all of us. You know, we need it to be.
Yeah,
we need it to be. Someone opens up about their mental health, and we don't go through a flow chart of, are they black? Are they white? Are they male? Are they female? Are they cis? Are they trans? Are they straight? Are they gay? We just go, are they a human? Let's even forget that for a second, because, you know, let's just go. So someone's opening up about their mental health, and the flow chart should just go straight to accept it.
Yeah, no, I get it. Yeah, 100% agree with you. Like, there should be no criteria for mental health, because there is no criteria for mental health like that. Yeah. And so as humans, we should stop. Like, and I agree with you. And I honestly didn't know that. And I think that's weird, because
I was so surprised when we came across it.
Yeah, no, that is really weird. That's really shitty, because anybody who has the courage and like power to speak up about their mental health should never be scrutinized for it ever. Like, but I also don't feel like, well, it's weird with like the male statistic, because like we want to empower everybody. So like, I don't want to like take away from that, like, because people are being negative towards women, because that's not fair either. Like, so like, I don't know, there's got to be a middle ground for sure.
Yeah, do you want the most ironic thing for me, especially considering you don't like, I mean, I'm not keen on the phrase man up. I like human up. I quite like that. Like, what does it mean? But one of my friends, Alan, he runs a page. It's called Just Man Up Alan, I think now, but it used to be called Just Man Up Social. And his thing was keep the mantra, change the meaning. So changing what it means to man up. And he's one of the biggest male mental health advocates that I know personally. And the thing is that he's got a few trolls on his YouTube channel that literally that they shout to him for the fact that he's talking about men's mental health and not all mental health. And this is the thing is that when it's you know, it's the same as like to me that's not exactly the same, but you know, when Black Lives Matter happened and people are like, all lives matter, it's like look, it's like, would you go to a cancer research rally and be like, all diseases matter? Like, you know, it's the thing is, we need to actually have a space for that. It needs to be okay for us to have a men's mental health event. It needs to be okay for us to have a women's mental health event. It needs to be okay for us to have a trans mental health event, or, you know, an LGBT. In fact, let's, like, you know, rather than everyone in LGBT, it's cool if the lesbians want to have it without letting the gays come. I'm probably being really bloody bad now saying the lesbians and the gays. I was doing it for effect. I'm sorry.
I know what you mean. But what you're saying, everybody should be able to have their own space without people feeling segregated, not because they want to be segregated, but because I think that there is some level of comfort in talking about something so touchy and, you know, sensitive, that maybe in that situation it's easier. But I agree with you. Like, maybe we'll get to a point where just people, I mean, I'm not exactly the best on this because I don't do well in like group therapy sessions. He says as he just does therapy in front of a live audience. But no, like, I mean, like, given the option, I'm not really a group therapy guy, but maybe we'll get to the point where everybody feels comfortable enough that, you know, I've been to other group, you know, I haven't, I'm going to forget the name of it, but like for being in a family member of people with addiction, you know, stuff like that. Like those places don't discriminate. Like they just want to help people. And I understand that not everybody feels comfortable in those situations, in those settings, you know, so maybe there's room for what you're saying, but maybe one day everybody will feel comfortable enough that just working on their mental health and talking as a group, and they'll be comfortable enough that that is a more powerful thing. Working in numbers is always better.
Yeah, I literally love just what Mama McGill just put in the chat, which says inclusivity also means realizing when one group needs the option to have tailored help or events. And I think that's
totally true.
Yeah, that's important. Is there anything else? We're going to wrap this up. Is there anything else you'd like to add before we do?
No, I want to thank you for having me on and for talking with me today and for letting me share my story. Like I said, I was really nervous beforehand. Extremely nervous, to be honest with you. Like, where I like called to my mods and I was like, "Hey, so you sure this is a good idea?" Like, you just like, they're like, "Yeah, like, what is wrong with you? Like, you talk all the time. Like, just go do that. You're gonna be fine." And I'm really glad that like I worked through that anxiety, because I mean, that's a real thing. I did that on stream the other day too, where I came back and there was clearly something wrong and I was having a panic attack. And instead of just like pushing like the breaker switch on my PC and just like, "Oh, sorry guys, power went out. Like, see you tomorrow." Like, I just sat there and I was like, "Hey, like, I'm having a panic attack. Like, I'm not doing okay." And like, people were accepting of it. So like, and they, you know, they talked me through it and stuff. So it's getting used to having those feelings and emotions and not feeling the like sudden urge to just like hide them and suppress them and pretend that they don't exist and they're not real, because they are. And the sooner that I'm willing to admit that they are and they're there, the easier that I can deal with them, you know, work with them, work through them, all the above, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, and that perfectly kind of circles us right back to something you said right at the very beginning of the interview, which was that, you know, for us with mental health, consistency is a very difficult thing, and people need, especially when you're a streamer or content creator, people want consistency. They need schedule and they need that reliability. And I think one of the keys for me to turn up for that consistency is that when we do the mental health check-in at the beginning of the stream, if I'm a 2 out of 5, I'll tell them. We've not had a 1 out of 5 yet. I've not turned up, but maybe I didn't turn up. Oh, that was the day that I cut it in half. When JD.st was on, that was the first time that I cut the Tuesday in half. But that's why actually, before this little avocado, by the way, which runs around on my screen a lot of the time, that is Avo, the appropriate vibes only avocado. Why it's AVO, appropriate vibes only.
Oh yeah, I've heard about this. Yeah,
this when you did your toy before, he's annoyingly, it's like a bloody tier 2 or tier 3 bloody emote, so no one's got it other than me. But he works both ways, and he's so basically that's because whatever you're feeling, it's okay to feel here. Whatever, if you are having a great day, come along and share it with us. If you're having a terrible day, come along and share it with us. And the one thing that helps me stay consistent is applying that rule to myself. I don't and that's the whole. There may be a bunch of people that come in and think, fucking hell, he's a bit low energy, isn't it? Because they happen to come into a stream for the first time on a 2. There may be other people that come in and find me a little bit bouncing off the walls as a 5, but I'm a man who has bipolar disorder, and I don't just want you to see the top side to that. I want you to see all of it. I want you to see that. But by giving myself that permission to be wherever I am on that scale on any given day, helps me that consistency a little bit more. Doesn't make me the world's most consistent person, but I think it's so important to acknowledge our feelings where they are. It's important as well, like you said, sometimes to kind of push through them and see what's on the other side. I'm so glad that we had this conversation. I'm very glad that that the anxiety didn't get the better of you in this instance. I'm glad you won.
You definitely have my respect for being able to do that, because there are times when I let that get me, and I let those emotions pull me down and pull me to negative spaces and control hours upon hours to days. And the fact that you are able to do that and to be open with people and to tell people and your community, and, something that you do for, that you care so much passionately about, I have a lot of respect for you that you're able to do that, because there are genuine days where I can't, because I feel not that, I mean, it would be genuine for me, to be on stream and to be down, but I just feel like that that's not what people want to see out of me. Like, you do a very different job, obviously, but, when I'm live, people don't want to see me sad or down or low energy. If they want to see a sad guy on the internet, they'd YouTube it. They can Google, you can Google search it.
I think that's the secret. It's in Avengers, you want to know my secret? I'm always angry. It's like I want to know my secret? I'm always bipolar. But I think do you know what that if I had not come to a realization, it was in November, and I can't remember what year, probably 2018, I would say, because it was not just before the bloody pandemic, but and I remember that I'd at that point I'd been trying to keep up the whole I've got this mental health shit complete, I've nailed it, I'm mindset by freaking Dave, of course I know what I'm doing, because I thought back then I was still more interested in the whole in the keeping up that perception whilst I was in the very early stages of building my business, and then that in itself was bringing me down, because I'm an honest and integral. Is that the word? Integral. I've got integrity. That's the word I'm trying to look for.
There you go.
I think it means I'm integral, but integral means anyway.
I know what you mean.
But yeah, I know what I'm trying to say. So, cause honesty is one of my core values, and I was very against kind of filtering and all that stuff, and I'm portraying the life that you've not got on social media. And I realized I was doing it myself to a degree, because I thought no one wants to hear from that sad guy on the internet. And I decided, you know what, I'm gonna share it. And there's a photo of me somewhere. I've got a little black beanie hat on, and I've got my hand up, and I've just got this caption, "I struggle too," and it basically underneath it, and it just says, there's a whole diatribe, because a picture says 1,000 words, but I usually put 1,000 words with every picture. Don't go and if you want to read my blog, it's called my Instagram page. They're all very long, and I decided then to share it. And the thing was that that kind of ended up being a double-edged sword, to be honest, because the response I got to that was immense. People felt, and I realized that actually it was better. It was even, I wasn't doing it for the business side of things, but I realized it was better for the pursuit of trying to learn and teach people about mental health, to be honest about it. And but the response was amazing. And then what I always found is that I could get that response whenever I was having a bad day. I could get that response. Now, weirdly, my brain went down a rabbit hole at this point, because I like to self-examine, and I was like, I can't decide whether whether, because if I had a bad day and I posted about it, I'd get a lot of support. Weirdly, from social media strangers more than my actual friends, but that's just another story entirely, because they're the people that follow my social media. But then my brain went, I basically sat there and was like, you know what? Am I actually causing bad days? Like, am I causing bad days because I'll know I'll get that response? And I'm thirsty but worthy, remember? So of course, like, and then it was like, so I basically decided, you know what? I'm not gonna kind of post while I'm having some bad days. And if I'm still having the bad day a few days later, I'm going to post then, and then I'll know that it wasn't just for blah blah blah. So I started testing all of that out, and I was like, oh god, because but that then circles back to what we were saying before: is the person that's wondering that probably isn't doing it for those reasons. It's the person that's oblivious to the fact that they're doing it for those reasons. So, but it's a funny thing. And what it does now is generally the place I'll go to is my Discord. And because if anyone from Instagram's just rocked up over here for the first time or anything, I trust my Twitch community more than any of my other social media communities, because they're a community. We're a community on Twitch. We've interacted on a much higher level. We've gone a lot deeper with each other. There's a few people that sat through 27 straight hours of me. I mean, that's dedication. I was going to say that's mental illness in itself, but I was like, no, let's not stigmatize from within. But yeah, but I open up to my Discord community, or I'll open up to the stream when we do the mental health check-in and stuff. And what I've found now is that's often the first step to me feeling better, is the fact that I'm not keeping it to myself, the fact that I'm not keeping the mask on, and the fact that I'm not sat there thinking, oh my God, what will these people think of Mindset by Dave if they knew what he's like right now? I slay that demon. It's like, right, well, let's let them think. Let's find out what will they think of Mindset by Dave.
With yourself.
Yeah, let's find out what they'll think of Mindset by Dave. And then, if nothing else, I don't have that fear, and that closes one tab in my brain. And that's it. That's enough. So that's it. And that's what and again, I really respect what you said before, is like, you don't speak on behalf of bipolar or mental illness. You speak on behalf of you. You don't speak on behalf of abuse. You speak on behalf of you. And I'm very much the same. I know that when I say this, I'm not speaking on behalf of all mentally ill people all over the world. I'm speaking on, that's where I am in my journey right now. And that's how that impacts on me, and the same as kind of how I encourage people to be open about their mental health early on in friendships and relationships, because then you weed out the people that aren't going to be there nice and early.
Same thing with streaming.
Yeah, this is another one of those things. It's like, honestly, if someone comes into that stream and they don't like me for having a bad day, I'm better off without them. Yeah, but the ones that stick around, like I at least know that those people, was it the Marilyn Monroe quote? If you don't accept me at my worst, you can't accept me at the best, or whatever it might be. I at least know that. But again, that one tab being closed it's better than 0 tabs being closed.
Exactly.
I love how for the challenge says, I speak on behalf of arseholes worldwide.
Well, I mean, somebody has to. At least up for the job.
He is up for the challenge.
Hey.
Right. Let's go with the social media plug, and then we'll finish this up, and then I can go for a wee.
It sounds
it's
good.
An interesting thing for people to hear at the end of the podcast. Dave needs a wee, people, because I'm human. And we've done 2 hours and 20 minutes so far.
I say we had a good time. We covered a lot of topics and a lot of ground. We did good.
We did.
Well, I appreciate you having me on here. I had a great time. Thank you for letting me share my story and for you talking with me. Thank you to your community. You guys have been, I have you pull up over on the side. You guys have been extremely gracious and extremely welcoming and loving. And I've seen most of what you guys have said. It means the world to me. I genuinely do appreciate it. If anybody wants to, you guys are definitely able to come by and hang out. You want to come check out my content, you can follow me, twitch.tv/HeyHairGuy. But something that I much rather would talk about real quick is obviously most of you guys know that May is Mental Health Awareness Month. Saturday, May 29th, I am doing a mental health awareness charity stream. I am working with Mental Health America, and we are doing a charity stream to raise money for that charity. I'm extremely excited to do it. We are starting Saturday night, the 29th at 6 p.m. There is a bunch of stuff in the basement Discord, which is mine. You can see it on all my social medias, which are all /Hey Hair Guy. But there are some really special things that I'm excited for, including possibly taking a pie to the face if we hit $500. I'm willing to shave my face at 1,000. And I hate saying this out loud, especially in such a loving community. But if somehow this is not my goal is much, much lower, but it's on there just for people to read. If we somehow hit $5,000 as a community, I'll shave my head. Yeah, I don't know if anybody's got me pulled up like big picture. Like I just want you guys.
Right.
Yeah, I just
How
want
much
everybody.
Bitcoin do I need to invest in between now and next week?
he said Dogecoin. I think you can get your return back in an hour if you wait long enough. Yes,
what's the crypto that I can quadruple my money on in the next week?
I don't know if anybody's got me pulled up on the big screen, but yes, if we hit $5,000 live on stream, we will pull out the clippers. I am not going no guard. We've already agreed on that because I don't want to look like some other streamers we won't name. But yes, for a charity and for a cause, something so near and dear to my heart that I care about, I am willing to literally. Oh my God.
10 minutes apart. Although I feel like I pull off the friggin' Professor X look better than the shitty Wolverine.
Look, you got a good symmetrically shaped head. Like that's the issue. Okay, I'm gonna tell you guys the story before we go. My mom gave me a crew cut when I was in 4th grade. I looked at pictures of it one time and her only words to me were, "I'm so sorry I did that to you."
Look, I'm also a hair guy. Young Dave.
Oh my God, the look on your face and those glasses are amazing.
That's me at 22.
Were you always that blonde? My God,
I was dyed.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say, what happened? Something's happened.
No. I wasn't blonde. No.
Oh my goodness!
I forgot how to focus my camera now.
No, you're good. But yes, so that is the charity stuff. And the event, like I said, Saturday, actually a week from today, the 29th, 6 p.m. Eastern. That is my time. I'm 5 hours.
Yeah, 11 p.m. for us.
Yeah. So, so I'm extremely excited. I would be lying to you if I told you that I wasn't extremely nervous because I know enough about like marketing and just like human behavior that if somehow like that snowball starts going and like that number gets to a certain degree, like somebody's gonna be like, I want to see this asshole bald. And like,
I want, well, maybe not asshole, but I don't know. It's your whole thing. How long will it take to get that back?
Oh my God. So this is something like me and like my like management and like mod team have talked about. They're like, dude, like, so you're like, what, putting your brand on hold? Like, no, I'm still a hair guy. Like, what are you talking about? Like, that doesn't go away. Like, you're saying like, what? It's my hair defines me. And then like Tech was like, dude, your name is hair guy. I don't know how to explain this any easier for you. What are you not understanding? And I was like, oh, all right. Well, I mean, it's for a good cause.
For a little while.
Honestly,
keep the hair in a bag on screen in the background.
Oh God.
Yes, that is brilliant.
Damn it. I want to say like with the guard, knowing my hair and the length, probably 2.5, 3 months. Like if we're being honest, genuinely honest, we're gonna call it the end of May, so June, July, so late August. Like it won't be this long, but I mean, I'd be back to my former self. So, I mean, hey, being short haired for the summer is not the worst time of the year to do it. Is all I'm saying. And for charity,
I feel I might hold my stream on another hour late next week and then come and rage. Yeah.
I mean, the
more the merrier. Forget, I'm not going to might do that. That's going in my calendar.
The more the merrier. Like I said, 6 p.m. Eastern time. You come on by. We are going to be playing, I think, some Fall Guys, marbles on stream. Obviously, we're going to be chatting. We're going to be playing some music. So we're going to be busting out the bass. And it's always a good time. Whenever we play Rocksmith around here, it's always a good time. I know. I see your guitar in the back. It looks really nice. I didn't get a chance to ask you about it. It looks nice. I can see it back there.
It's a PRS Custom 22.
Ace.
Yeah.
Is it sunburst? I can only see like the top
It's
and like one of
red.
the pickup.
No,
Okay, I could
it's
tell
red.
that. Okay.
It's surprising that it wasn't like there wasn't such an option to get purple guitars back in the day. So it definitely would have been purple if I'd have been able to get my hands on a purple one. But
I play bass. I got an Ibanez over here. I love it.
nice,
Yep.
nice.
But yes, but that's what I wanted to promote. And again, thank you for having me on. It has been amazing talking to you with your community, and just thank you for letting me share my story and for talking with you.